The city buzzed with morning energy. Horns blared, vendors shouted, and the streets were painted with puddles from last night's storm. But one particular car cut through it all like royalty. A silver Range Rover, polished to perfection, cruised down the narrow road like it owned the world. Behind the wheel sat Anita Osei, dripping in elegance. Her fingers, adorned with rings, gripped the steering wheel like a queen holding her scepter. Her red nails matched her lipstick, and her oversized sunglasses barely covered her smirk. She wasn't late. She just liked making an entrance. As her car approached a bend, her eyes locked on someone, on the roadside. A young man, dressed in faded clothes, was sweeping debris from the gutter. His shirt was too clean for the work he was doing. His movements were steady, focused, humble. But to Anita, he was just another poor soul in a sea of nobodies. She wrinkled her nose. Seriously? Who sweeps the street in this weather? Then she saw it, a large, muddy puddle resting right next to where the boy was working. A wicked idea curled into her grin. Let's teach him to stay out of the way, she whispered to herself. Without warning, she pressed the accelerator. Splash! The puddle exploded in brown fury, soaking the young man from head to toe. Mud splattered across his face, shirt, and even the small lunchbox resting beside him. Anita laughed out loud. Not a nervous giggle, a mean, satisfied laugh. You should be grateful, boy, she muttered as she sped off. Now you match your job. The boy didn't speak. Didn't scream. He just stood there, still, calm, muddy. But what Anita didn't realize was that someone was watching. Someone very powerful. And the game she just played had consequences she could never imagine. High above the city streets, on the 21st floor of the Oloi Tower, stood a figure cloaked in silence. The glass walls offered a clear view of everything below, the traffic, the people, the puddle, and the splash. The silver Range Rover roared past, disappearing around the corner. But the figure's gaze didn't follow the car. It remained fixed on the boy now dripping with dirty water. She saw everything. Her name was Mama Oloi. Elder. Matriarch. Spiritual leader. And to the inner circle of the Oloi dynasty, the woman whose word carried more power than any politician or CEO. But today, she wasn't dressed in luxury or gold. She stood barefoot, wrapped in a faded wrapper, her hands clasped before her. Her eyes, sharp, deep, and ancient, narrowed as she watched the boy quietly pick up his broom. His every movement told her what she needed to know. He didn't curse. He didn't cry. He didn't chase the car. He simply turned, and resumed sweeping. Mama Oloi nodded slowly. She wasn't just watching. She was testing. The boy, Ayatund, was her grandson. But to the world, he was just a cleaner. That's how she wanted it. She had hidden his identity, stripped him of his titles, and placed him among the forgotten. Why? To judge the hearts of those who desired power. Let them show their true colors when they think he has none, she had told the board. Today, Anita had revealed hers, loud and clear. And Mama Oloi? She had seen enough. With a slow turn, she walked away from the window, her wrapper brushing the marble floor like thunderclouds moving over a mountain. She whispered, "The time is near." And in the distance, thunder rolled, soft, but sure. Ayatund bent down slowly, water dripping from his eyebrows into the soil. He didn't flinch. Didn't complain. He just picked up the metal broom again and continued sweeping, as if he hadn't just been humiliated by a woman in a luxury car. But behind his quiet gaze lived a storm. No one in the bustling city of Ibadan suspected that the boy in worn sandals and faded trousers was the future of Oloi Group, the most powerful business empire in the region. His bloodline ran deeper than oil. His inheritance, vast estates, companies, even boardrooms, had been set aside for him. But for now, he was on a mission far more important than profit. His grandmother, Mama Oloy, had sent him into the streets to observe the world firsthand. Not with privilege. Not with titles. But with humility. A prince who has never walked with the poor, she told him, is a king who will never understand his people. For months, he'd lived like this, eating in roadside stalls, sleeping in a modest hostel, sweeping streets before sunrise. Not one board member knew his true identity. Not one investor recognized his face. But he had been watching them all. He had seen how drivers shouted at cleaners. How businesswomen threw wrappers of suya from tinted windows. How guards ignored boys in sandals, but bowed to men in suits. And now, Anita. The woman who drenched him in mud and laughed like he was nothing. A lesson had to be taught. Not with revenge, but with revelation. Ayatund lifted his eyes to the skyline, where the Oloy Tower pierced the clouds. His expression remained calm, but his silence was thunder. One day soon, he would sit in that tower again, not as a ghost sweeping dust, but as the storm in a suit that no one saw coming. In a high-rise co-working lounge, Anita flipped her braided hair as she posed beside a ring light. "Okay, guys. Just got invited to the Oloy Tech and Innovation Expo," she said to her phone. "You're looking at the next CEO of Nigeria's hottest fashion tech brand." Her followers erupted in likes and emojis. Anita Osei wasn't just beautiful. She was ambitious, calculated, and hungry for fame. Born into money, she had never known real struggle, only how to dress like success and speak like influence. Her Instagram was polished, her pitch deck glowing with digital renders and futuristic designs. But beneath the filters and lipstick, there lived a shadow, arrogance. She believed her wealth protected her. That status opened every door. And now, she had her eyes set on the crown jewel, a brand deal with Oloy Group. If she landed this contract, she'd be on every billboard in Africa. "No one can resist my pitch," she bragged to her assistant. "Especially not those corporate men in suits. I know what they like." That night, she rehearsed her presentation over champagne and candles. But never once did she think to reflect on the man she splashed earlier. He was already forgotten, as disposable as a paper napkin. If only she knew. That cleaner was no ordinary boy. He wasn't beneath her, he was above her in every way that mattered. And while Anita polished her slides and rehearsed fake smiles, a quiet email entered her inbox. Subject: Congratulations. You've been shortlisted to present your pitch to the board of Oloy Group this Friday at 9 a.m. Anita squealed with joy. She had no idea that the boy from the gutter, the one she left soaking in filth, would be sitting at the head of that table. And he would not forget her face. The grand marble doors of the Oloy Group headquarters glimmered like the gates of paradise. Anita stood at the entrance, dressed in a snow-white designer suit, red heels clicking confidently against the polished floors. She was ready. In her mind, the deal was already hers. "I'll charm them. Blow them away," she whispered to herself. "Just don't mention the mud boy again. He's beneath you." The receptionist smiled politely as Anita strutted in. "Miss Anita Osei. Please take the elevator to the top floor. The board is waiting for you." Top floor. Of course. Only the most important sat up there. She stepped into the elevator, checked her lipstick one last time, and imagined the moment she would shake hands with the CEO. The handshake that would change her life. But what she didn't know was this: every second of her walk was being watched. In a hidden room behind the boardroom, Mama Oloy, the spiritual matriarch, stood in silence, eyes fixed on the screen. Her hands gently rubbed the golden beads of her prayer necklace. "She walks like a queen, but we shall see if her heart is noble," she said softly. And beside her, dressed in a sharp navy suit, stood Ayatund. Gone was the broom. Gone were the muddy clothes. Now, he stood tall, dignified, his clean-shaven face calm but unreadable. "She has no idea, does she?" he asked. Mama Oloy smiled. "That is the test." Back in the elevator, Anita finally reached the top. As the doors slid open, she was greeted by a grand hallway, walls lined with ancestral portraits, chandeliers dripping with crystal, and golden tiles beneath her feet. She walked through double doors into the boardroom. And there he was. Sitting at the head of the table, suit sharp, eyes steady, the cleaner. Her smile froze. The room fell silent. But the biggest silence was from Ayatund, who didn't speak. Didn't smile. He simply nodded, and gestured for her to begin. Her past had walked into her present. Now, she would stand trial, not in a court of law, but in the court of consequences. Anita's hand trembled slightly as she opened her laptop. The PowerPoint logo spun on the screen. All eyes were on her, but only one pair truly mattered, his. The cleaner, now dressed like a prince. The one she humiliated, drenched in mud. Now sitting in judgment, surrounded by directors and executives. But Anita couldn't back down. She forced a smile and launched into her pitch. "Good morning, Board of Oloy Group. My name is Anita Osei, and I am the founder and creative director of Sleekwear Tech, an innovative fusion of African fashion and wearable technology." Her voice regained strength as the slides changed. For a moment, she found her rhythm. Designs flashed on the screen: smart fabric wrappers, solar charging handbags, rain-detecting heels. The board members nodded. But Ayatund? He remained expressionless. He leaned back, fingers steepled, eyes never leaving hers. His silence was louder than applause. Anita began to sweat. The pitch she had rehearsed 100 times now felt hollow. And then it happened. The final slide. She clicked, and froze. A photo appeared. Taken from a street camera. It showed Anita in her white Range Rover. And below, a young man, the same man before her, soaked in muddy water, holding a broom. The entire board gasped. Anita's jaw dropped. I didn't know. I never meant." The chairman beside Ayatund looked stunned. "This is you?" Ayatund finally spoke. His voice was calm. Powerful. "No need to explain. This pitch was not just for your product. It was a test of your character." He stood, walked to the window, then turned back. "You see, I swept the streets not because I had to, but because I needed to see people's hearts. Some offered help. Others looked away." His eyes locked with hers. "You laughed." Silence. Utter silence. Anita's heart pounded like war drums. No PowerPoint could save her now. She had sold an idea, but exposed her soul. And Ayatund had all the receipts. The boardroom hung in dead silence. Even the air seemed frozen in shock. Anita's once flawless confidence shattered like a broken screen. Her red lipstick quivered. Her words had dried up. I didn't know who he was," she mumbled, glancing at the shocked faces around the table. "But that's the point," said Ayatund, his voice calm, yet heavy with power. "You judged someone you didn't know. You assumed worth was worn on a label, not lived through actions." The chairman coughed awkwardly and whispered to another board member. The entire team looked unsure. One director finally spoke. "Miss Anita, we believe in innovation, but also integrity. Your product is impressive, but this company is founded on values. Kindness. Humility. Community." Anita's eyes darted back to Ayatund. "You set me up," she blurted, almost accusingly. "No," Ayatund replied, "you revealed yourself. It wasn't revenge. It was revelation. The muddy water hadn't stained his clothes, it had exposed her soul. Anita's pitch deck still glowed behind her. Sleekware tech glittering promises. But none of it could save her now. She reached into her purse with trembling hands and pulled out a neatly folded letter, her final plea. "This is my proposal in writing," she said. "Maybe if you just—" Ayatun didn't take it. Instead, Mama Oloy stepped forward from the adjacent room. Heads turned in awe. She rarely appeared in board matters. Dressed in regal osook, her presence silenced the room. She looked Anita in the eye. "My grandson has seen your heart. And in this family, we do not invest in arrogance." Tears threatened to spill from Anita's lashes. Her empire, her plans, her reputation, all crumbling. "But I've worked so hard," she whispered. "And now," said Mama Oloy, "you must start again, not with products, but with purpose." The doors opened behind her. The board had made its decision. Anita Osei had been dismissed. But her journey was far from over. Anita stepped out of Oloy Tower. The same revolving glass doors she once entered with a strut, now pushed her out with silence. Her heels clicked against the concrete like echoes of a lost dream. Cameras once followed her. Fans once celebrated her. Now, just whispers. She wandered down the street, head down, heart heavier than gold. Her phone buzzed, hundreds of messages. News had spread. Fashion queen rejected by CEO. Cleaner humiliates influencer. Pride before the pitch. She switched off her phone. She walked past a group of street sweepers. None recognized her. But one, a young girl, accidentally splashed water on Anita's shoes. Anita's mouth opened. But no words came. She looked at the girl, small hands, torn slippers, sweat on her forehead. Just like the boy she once mocked. Just like the lesson she ignored. And slowly, she bent down. Anita took out her white silk handkerchief, and cleaned the girl's hands. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I should have known better." The girl looked confused, but smiled. "Thank you, Auntie." That smile melted something inside Anita, not just shame, but hope. She kept walking, past shops, past stalls, until she reached a quiet place, a children's community center she'd once donated to, but never visited. She walked in. The teacher recognized her instantly. "Miss Osei." "I'd like to volunteer," she said. "Volunteer?" "Yes. For free. Just, to help. Maybe teach design. Maybe learn from them too." The teacher smiled. And for the first time in a long while, Anita smiled back. Not the fake one. Not the filtered one. But the kind that grows when a soul begins to heal. Across the city, Ayatun looked down from the Oloy Tower's window. He saw her, from a distance. He said nothing. But inside, he nodded. Because this story wasn't about a fall. It was about the kind of rise that begins after you touch the ground. 3 months had passed. The name, Anita Osei, no longer trended online. Her glamorous brand, Sleekware Tech, had gone silent. Investors had pulled out. Clients had ghosted her. But Anita was no longer chasing spotlights. She now spent her mornings surrounded by children at the local community center, teaching them the art of fashion, helping them stitch dreams from scraps. One morning, while cleaning up after class, she noticed a group of sweepers struggling to unclog a flooded roadside drain. Water and trash spilled onto the pavement. Passers-by wrinkled their noses and walked around. Something inside her paused. She remembered the day she splashed muddy water on a stranger, laughing at the mess she thought beneath her. This time, she didn't look away. Without thinking, Anita pulled off her heels, rolled up her sleeves, and joined the workers. Her hands plunged into the muddy drain, pulling debris out with determination. People stared. Some laughed. Others whispered. But she kept going. And then, a car rolled up. Black. Sleek. Tinted. The door opened, and out stepped Ayatund. Clean. Composed. Silent. He watched her, knees deep in mud, not for show, not for pity, but with sincerity. Anita looked up and froze. Their eyes met. "I'm not doing this for redemption," she said softly, chest heaving. "I'm doing it because I finally see people. I see myself." Ayatun didn't speak right away. Then, slowly, he walked over and offered her a clean towel. She took it. He looked around at the amazed crowd, then back at her. "You've changed," he said. "Not just your clothes, but your heart." Anita nodded, tears in her eyes. And for the first time since the boardroom disaster, Ayatun smiled. A real one. "Come with me," he said. "To where?" "Back to the table. But this time, not as a lesson, as a partner." The Oloy Group boardroom gleamed once again. Crystal lights. Glass windows. A polished mahogany table that had witnessed power, ego, and now, redemption. Anita stepped in, dressed modestly in a handmade Ankara suit stitched by the children she taught. The room fell silent, but this time, not in judgment. In awe. Directors who once dismissed her nodded respectfully. The chairman stood to greet her. Mama Oloy, seated in her regal attire, smiled knowingly. She walked through the storm, and came out washed clean. At the head of the table, Ayatund rose. "Today," he said, "we welcome not just a brilliant mind, but a transformed spirit." He turned to Anita. "We no longer want to invest in sleekware tech." Gasps rippled. "But," he continued, "we want to build a new company, co-founded with you. A social enterprise that blends fashion with community. Style with purpose. Impact with innovation." Anita covered her mouth, overwhelmed. She wasn't being rewarded with pity. She was being trusted with legacy. Mama Oloy spoke, her voice echoing with spiritual weight. "You passed the real test, child. Not the one of pitch decks and profits, but the test of the heart." Ayatund extended his hand. "Shall we build the future together?" Anita took it. Hand in hand, they sat side by side. And as they signed the first papers for their new joint venture, Mud and Majesty, Fashion That Heals, a new story began. Not one of shame. Not of revenge. But of purpose reborn from pride. The world would soon know Anita Osei not as the woman who mocked a cleaner, but as the woman who became one, and used that moment to rise higher than ever. Because sometimes, the throne waits not at the top of towers, but in the mud we refuse to walk through. And the CEO who once swept streets? He found something greater than vengeance. He found a partner who had finally learned to see.